All right, welcome. My name is Mike Dokter. I am the coach of the house basketball team in Muskegon, Michigan, the women's high school basketball team. We are reading together Chop Wood and Carry Water in preparation for our team book this season called Pound the Stone, which is the sequel to this book by Joshua Medcalf. So I'm going to be reading and giving thoughts on chapters 15 and 16. Excuse me, if you're seeing this for the first time, and you want to watch more, go ahead and click on the playlist and see the rest of the videos we've made, and you'll be able to go through the whole book. So, Rough Side of the Mountain, chapter 15. One day, just as the apprentices reached the shooting range, the sky cracked with thunder and began pouring down rain like John had never seen before. Everyone was instructed to go into the dining hall. Once they arrived, they were asked to be seated. Up on the board was written talent versus skill. As the apprentices settled in, Akira began to teach, speaking about how the difference between talent and skill is widely misunderstood. Many people think that all you need is talent, and that only a chosen few can truly succeed. Many talented people believe the same thing and then get frustrated when they fail because they think all they need to do is show up and everything will magically line up for them because of their talent. After everyone was dismissed, John waited around to talk with the old sensei. John was bubbling over with excitement. As you were talking, I remembered that Michael Jordan got cut from his high school varsity basketball team as a freshman. He even had a commercial once where he said, "Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I led you to believe that basketball was a God-given gift and not something that I worked for every single day of my life." Many people thought that commercial was MJ going after LeBron James, and sure enough, LeBron's work ethic and willingness to sacrifice increased dramatically since that commercial. And it wasn't until that he had that shift that he actually won an NBA championship. Very interesting, mused Akira. I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me. I always wondered what happened, but I never heard the commercial or MJ quote before. Maybe it did have something to do with LeBron's shift in mentality and work ethic. It was still pouring rain outside, so Akira asked John if he wanted to join him by the fire. John agreed, loading a few logs into the furnace. They sat, enjoying the warmth of the flames in the chilly dining hall. Akira asked, "John, you love golf, don't you?" John replied, "Yes, absolutely. My dad, Jordan, and I grew up playing every Friday, and it developed a special bond between us. Jordan loved to watch us play." The old man smiled as John spoke of the warm memories he had of his family that they shared on the course. Finally, he asked, "But do you know the story of how golf balls were first made?" "I don't think I do," John realized. Akira continued, "At first, golf balls were smooth without any dimples at all. But eventually, during testing, one man started to notice something strange. He developed a theory about it. And one day, he came into the work early to test his theory because he thought everyone would think he was crazy if he shared his theory with them. His theory was that the golf balls that had been hit many times, the bruised and rough ones, actually traveled much further than the perfectly smooth ones did. Sure enough, he was right. These tiny imperfections create a thin layer of turbulence around the ball, reducing drag and allowing air to flow further and more smoothly around the ball. And that's why today all golf balls have dimples on them. John, I know you're afraid of your perceived weaknesses and shortcomings, and you feel like your journey is taking you up the rough side of the mountain. But when you don't give up and you don't give in, the rough side of the mountain actually molds you and shapes you into a person who can travel much further in life, just like those roughed up golf balls. The blemishes, scars, and setbacks are what gives you the character to take you places that other people are often too soft and smooth to go. John nodded, feeling weight gently lift off of his shoulders as Akira spoke. Are you still struggling with comparing yourself to other people who things come more easily to? His sensei asked. Doing a lot better since I started doing the gratefulness meditation every morning, but it's still hard at times. I think talent is often more of a curse than a blessing, John. Did you know that most people who wake up and win the lottery are worse off financially 5 years down the road than they were before winning the lottery? John shook his head. I never knew that. Winning the lottery skips valuable steps in the process of going up the rough side of the mountain. Instead of being forced to learn to develop the skills necessary for creating or sustaining success, you arrive at the top without any of what it takes to stay there. Talent can be that kind of lottery, John. A talented athlete is often less likely to develop the skills and work ethic that a less talented one has to develop just to survive. And because of that, they may end up much worse off down the road. They never learned the work ethic, persistence, and grit needed to overcome the inevitable challenges that life throws their way. Remember, greatness isn't for the chosen few, but for the few who consistently and persistently choose. I know it seems like life is unfair right now and you want things to be easier, but the rough side of the mountain will actually prepare you for life much better than the smooth side. Believe it or not, the setbacks of today are quickly becoming the forging blades of greatness for tomorrow. In fact, a wise man once said, hardship often prepares ordinary people for extraordinary destinies. It was C.S. Lewis who said that. He's a smart dude. Wow, I never thought of it that way before, John pondered. I guess I need to rethink my setbacks. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and perspective. I'm not sure I would have made it this far without you. Akira just smiled, nodding patiently. My blessing. All right, that was chapter 15. The biggest takeaway I want you to think of from that is there are going to be people in your life who are more talented than you. Maybe in sports and athletics, maybe school just comes easier to see them. Maybe they don't have to think about stuff when they take tests. They just automatically recall it. Maybe they don't have to study, whatever else that is. Those people are setting themselves up for a world of hurt when life gets really hard. What you're learning through going through the struggles of having to prepare more, of having to study harder, of having to train harder, of having to develop the skills necessary to do a specific move or play a specific position, opposed to those who are just like freakishly athletic. Those skills, talents, and abilities that you are developing are going to get you much further in life. That's why it's important to fall in love with the process and not the end result. So that was a chapter 15, the rough side of the mountain. Here comes chapter 16. Harnessing power. One evening, John and Akira had gone on a long walk after dinner to the edge of the property to catch the sunset. As they watched the sun drop in the horizon, Akira pointed to a large oak tree which had been uprooted and lay fallen on the edge of the property. He asked, "Do you see that tree, John?" "Of course. What happened to it?" "A very strong windstorm blew it over many years ago. But after that same windstorm, a company in the city came up and set up those. Do you know what they are?" Akira pointed in the other direction across a wide field. Far away, John could glimpse the spinning turbines of a wind farm. "A wind farm?" "Exactly. Isn't it strange, John, that wind can be both creative and destructive at the same time? It all depends on how you harness it. It can destroy homes or trees, or it can create power to push a sailboat across an ocean." John nodded. "I never thought of it that way." Akira continued, "Words are a lot like that. Just like the wind, they are everywhere. We use them every day to talk to others, but most importantly, we use them to talk to ourselves. And just like the wind, their power can either destroy or create. You may not have control over how other people talk to you, but you do have control over how you talk to yourself. And that is hugely important because, I'm going to repeat this later, so pay attention. Words put pictures in your mind. Pictures in your mind impact how you feel. How you feel impacts what you do, and what you habitually do impacts your destiny. What amazes me is that many people often, without realizing it, use this power to talk themselves into choices that are harmful for themselves in the long run, even if they might offer temporary happiness. Or they use their words to give power to their inner critic, destroying their own joy and growth before it even has a chance to start. "What do you mean?" asked John. "We are all experts at mental training, John, because we practice it every day. Most people just aren't aware of it. Our brains can't distinguish between what is real and what is imagined, and we actually wrap muscle memory with vivid visualization. You use visualization every single day, though you might only be using it in negative ways." "How so?" asked John. "Do you ever worry, John?" Worrying is a form of negative visualization that helps create the scenario you see happening in your mind. The hard choice, but the one best for us in the long run, is to use our words to put positive pictures into our minds and talk to ourselves in ways that push us towards growth and towards what is most beneficial for ourselves in the long run. It might sound crazy at first, but using beneficial and constructive self-talk instead of giving power to our inner critic is one of the most formidable strategies possible to use towards reaching our own potential. You might not be able to stop negative thoughts from your inner critic from screaming at you, but you don't have to believe them. And you can definitely talk to yourself rather than just listening to the negativity. John nodded, understanding. Just like the wind, Akira smiled. Yes, just like the wind. Now, here's what I want you to realize from that. I'm going to read that little section again. Words put pictures in your mind. Pictures in your mind impact how you feel. How you feel impacts what you do, and what you habitually do impacts your destiny. It all starts with the words that you say to yourself. It all starts with how you are talking to yourself. What I want to try to do this season for you, and what I'd like for you all to do this season, is let's focus on the positive things. If there are negative things, we will address those and we will handle those. But as we're going through stuff, if we're missing a free throw, if we miss a shot, if we lose a game, if there's a particularly hard practice, I don't want to hear stuff like I suck or this sucks or I can't do this. If you say that, you're going to ultimately end up believing it. What I want us to focus on is what we can control, our efforts and our attitude. If we control our effort and the attitude that we have and put that effort in with, we're going to be in a golden spot. All right. So harness the power of your words. It's the only thing that you can habitually control over and over and over again is what you say to yourself. What you say to yourself, and then the thoughts that come out of that. If there's a negative thought that comes out of that, figure out and address it right away. Understand that that's happening and use your own words and your own thoughts to come up with new words and new thoughts that can help redirect that muscle memory in your brain. Your brain can't distinguish between what's make-believe and what's not, or what's real. We all know those people who worry way too much and then they end up developing that self-fulfilling prophecy. This is going to happen to me. I'm going to screw up on this test. That person's going to own me on the court. All that other stuff. When that stuff happens and we talk to ourselves like that, there's a much better chance that we're going to create that scenario for ourselves than if we talk to ourselves the opposite way and say, I'm going to destroy this test. I'm going to do great. I'm going to prepare myself. I'm going to work hard so that that person doesn't own me and instead I own them. When we come at it from that perspective, we're in a much better spot. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye now.